Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Record of Ragnarok Chapter 51. Before I get into this month's review, I of course have to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons. Special thanks to Fuse, Neo, Dijon Redden, Anthony Chavez, Honey Mustard, Zach Rowitz, K-God, Chris Redfield, Scratch23, Moonshadow935, Rat, Ryzen 4K, Artist, Mac Campaign, and Wave of Manga. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the start of videos or access to reviews for solo leveling in the Boxer, you can always become a patron as well. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. And also, if you haven't already, you should hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads, and you should also leave a like and a comment to help boost us up in the algorithm. With that out of the way, let's get on with the review. I'm like 99% sure that this chapter is going to be the penultimate chapter of the fight, or well, it's going to end next month. We may get a double chapter next month. They seem to be doing that a lot for the beginnings, ends, and turning points of the fights, so I find it fairly likely we'll get a double chapter next month. The last one would have been 3 months prior, so makes sense. And also just the way this chapter ends off, I feel like we're getting very close to the end now. So we start off with Beelzebub, who seems to be monologuing in the spotlight about how anyone would have been fine, but he wanted to see what sort of flowers would grow in the beautiful soil that he found. And it should be of note that the title of this chapter is Seeds and Soil. So, of course, Beelzebub being introduced during this fight was not for no reason. He is, as I predicted, relevant to Hajin and Zarafuku's backstory. So, if you recall in the last chapter, Hajin pulled a Gurren Lagann, drilled through Buddha's shield, and gouged out one of his eyes. This is the most serious damage Buddha has taken in the entire fight thus far. Kind of a big fucking deal. It just goes to show how strong Hajin is, or it's kind of hard to say whether it shows how strong Hajin is or how weak Buddha is without his future sight, but in this chapter, Buddha's able to contend without future sight, so I don't think Buddha's weak. The fact that he's able to break through the shield, as brought up by Ares, the shield that was able to block the Misery Cleaver with no issue, I think this mostly just goes to show how stupidly strong Hajin is. So, Hajin is curious as to how crazy they can get with their fight, since Buddha was able to dodge his attack at the last minute. So now he turns his arm into this weird, gross sword-axe combo. It's a very ugly weapon. I guess it'd be like the head of a halberd, but there's no polearm behind it. So it's just kind of like an ugly, gross weapon. It's not even really that cool. So Buddha transforms his staff back into the sword. They do kind of a back and forth. They mention how Buddha has changed his stance to account for his new blind spot because, of course, now there's a whole chunk missing out of his vision. He can't see out of his left eye. I assume that would also mess up his depth perception. And, you know, he has a major blind spot now. If Hajin's attacking him from that vector, he is going to have a bit of an issue defending himself there. Now, Buddha manages to get a slash in on Hajin. He actually manages to just graze Hajin's throat, but he leaned back just enough to avoid it being any deeper. Buddha gets hit again, and Hajin keeps saying divine retribution, like every time he's hitting Buddha. And then he starts like, just starting the first part of it like the fucking Yu-Gi-Oh thing. It's like, divine retribution. He seems to be really into it. Hajin has a lot of really good faces this chapter. Like, his face at the end of last chapter was kind of silly in a dumb way. It reminds me of the fucking Lu Tian face. But he has some pretty good expressions in this chapter. This chapter reminded me how good Record of Ragnarok expressions can be sometime, because this was really good. He just has so many good faces. He's such a smug asshole. I don't think we've gotten smug asshole vibes like this since Poseidon, which I mentioned last month. It gave me a very big Poseidon vibe. So we get more Hajin backstory as Hades explains that Hajin is apparently stronger than almost any god, and he apparently destroyed half of Helheim forever ago. So long ago that Hades wasn't even in charge of Helheim yet. So it seems like Hajin may possibly be the oldest entity we've seen in the series. Just kind of spooky. He adds a little bit of a creepiness factor, makes him seem kind of maybe not eldritch in a way, but he does have this kind of like cosmic creepiness to him. This old ancient god demon thing that no one can remember makes him kind of creepy. So Hades and Hermes both come to the conclusion that, yeah, Beelzebub probably is responsible for Hadjin being here, because Hadjin just disappeared at some point, and what Beelzebub probably did is he took a little piece that was left of Hadjin, turned it into this little gross worm thing with like a stag beetle head, and then planted it on Zerafuku. So as far as I can tell, Zerafuku was not created artificially, but he was just kind of used as a vessel. Probably because they knew that he was going to be going around absorbing misery and negative energy, and that would be something that Hadjin would feed upon. So that's kind of interesting. But we are left to wonder what actually happened to Hadjin. Why did he disappear? Because no one knows. He disappeared, but there was stuff left of him. So what exactly happened? Was he destroyed? Was he beaten by someone? Who knows? But now we have a confirmation as to why Hadjin is here and how he connects to Zerafuku. And even Ares says that, like, it's really fucked up that Beelzebub did this. And, I mean, yeah, it's a dick move. Beelzebub is fucking evil. I feel like all of us kind of expected that. It is Beelzebub after all. So, not really much of a surprise there. So Beelzebub is just sitting back, relaxing, having some gamer juice in his gamer chair, watching as everything goes on. Now, Buddha just keeps taking hits. He gets stabbed in the foot. And Buddha notices that Hadjin keeps saying divine retribution like Zero and the 7 lucky gods were. And he points out that, you know, Zero would be doing this if he was still there. Or, well, Hadjin would not be saying this if there weren't traces of Zerafuku left. If Hadjin just completely erased Zerafuku, then why would he be saying divine retribution? Why would he give a shit? So there must be some kind of remnants of Zerafuku in there somewhere. And Hadjin is amused by this concept. He starts doing a big belly laugh like an asshole and says that he consumed Zerafuku, and that he tasted surprisingly good for like a third-rate god who is a piece of shit. So Buddha gets pissed. Buddha gets very pissed, tells Hadjin to shut up, and says basically like, if Zerafuku's gone, that makes this a lot fucking easier. You're fucking dead, my guy. So he does the 6 realm staff transformation. Now, I thought originally, it seemed like from the leaks that he used the infernal realm. But no, he actually used the Preta realm, which is interesting, because I would assume the Preta realm would deal more with suffering, but instead here it has to do with hatred, though they call hatred a poison. I don't know. Well, this is why we do the leaks video and the review, because there's stuff like this that I'll get wrong, or that basically anyone will get wrong, because we don't have the full chapter or the full translation out. So, this is the first time that Buddha's ever been consumed by hatred, and as a result, the staff turns into a weapon that none of them have seen before, the Salakayas, Scythe of the Wild God. It's got a big lion head on the back of it. It's fucking cool. One of my favorite parts of this fight is the variety that we get because of Buddha's staff. It's the same reason I really like Jack's Voland, because it just pretty much gave infinite possibilities with what Jack could do for his fighting style. It gave the author a lot of room for creativity for what they could have him do in the fight. And it's much the same way here, where every time Buddha's staff transforms into a different weapon, his fighting style changes. Maybe he's fully defensive, sometimes he's a close-range fighter, sometimes he's a long-range fighter, sometimes he's more of like a bludgeoning weapon fighter with the club, and now this is sort of like, I guess it would be more like a mid-range weapon, because with a scythe, you're probably going to want to be like getting people hooked in with the blade, as opposed to his halberd, where it's mostly just if they're at a distance, you're going to be trying to slash him or stab him with it. So, Buddha gives off big fucking Reiatsu. His spiritual energy is taking on the shape of like an asura, of a demon. And all the gods are shocked by this. Hades says that Buddha intends to end this in one blow, as you can imagine, since he's so pissed off. So Hajin is very hyped up with how satisfying it is to squash bugs that try to fight back. So they go in for a clash. Buddha uses an attack called Karma Destroying Samsara Cycle, and like the fucking souls of the damned are coming out of the back of the scythe. This is really fucking cool. Karma Destroying Samsara Cycle may be one of the coolest attack names in the series. It just sounds fucking awesome. Now Hajin blocks this with his sword arm, but starts getting pushed back by the force of the attack. He just keeps getting pushed. Like Buddha is running forward, and Hajin is having to hold his ground to stop himself from getting hit or being pushed back. So eventually, the blade lock ends. Buddha seems to have an opening as Hajin dodges and goes in for a counter, but then the lion mouth on the scythe begins to breathe fire. It's like a fucking engine. And now we have the next attack. I guess Buddha just kind of spins around and goes in for another attack. Karma Destroying Samsara Cycle Eternal. I preferred the rough translation version of it. Karma Destroying Samsara Cycle Eternity. Listen, whenever you put eternity or eternal into the name of like any kind of attack or some shit, it becomes way cooler. Because eternity is a cool word with cool implications. It's like, holy shit, eternity? Forever? Fuck yeah. So Hajin actually seems surprised by this attack. He's taken off guard. This is the first time we've seen him like this. This surprise. He seemed kind of off-put by Buddha being able to push him back with the previous attack. But this time, Hajin is actually shocked as the attack comes in. We see there's a bunch of blood splatter, and Hajin has blocked the scythe with his left arm, with all of its weird, gross, bony protrusions. Though the scythe has kind of cut into his arm. He just kind of, like, used his arm as a shield. But, it's still flesh and blood, so it's not a perfect shield. However, that big blood splatter is from Hajin stabbing Buddha in the gut. So that's bad. Buddha has been hit with, like, all of the really bad injuries. Like, his foot has been stabbed, his eye's been gouged out. Now he's been stabbed through the gut. This would be fatal most of the time. I mean, fortunately, the last time this happened to one of our human combatants, Jack won. So, who knows? Every passing chapter, I get mildly less confident in Buddha's ability to survive this round. I assume that's intentional. But yeah, grievous injury. Everyone is shocked. And Hajin assumes that it's over. He asks Buddha if he has any final words, but Buddha puts his confident face back on again. And then he repeats his words from the start of the fight. He stands his ground, he gets into more of a sturdy stance to hold his own against Hajin, and he says once again, if the gods won't save them, I will. And if any god gets in my way, I'll kill them. So, Buddha's not giving up. Buddha, despite his injuries, is still confident as ever in his ability to win. Even as he's, like, pierced through the gut here, Hajin is shocked that Buddha is seemingly now pretty much unshaken in his confidence. So, we have to wonder. Hajin says Zerafuku is gone, but there still seem to be remnants of Zerafuku left within him. So I'm wondering how that's going to play into this. Now, Buddha, in his rage, has taken Hajin at his word and has decided, fine, if I can't save Zerafuku, then I don't have to worry about killing you. It's totally fine. So Buddha, in his mind, is a smart person because he values the mission. He values his original goal of saving humanity over trying to save one person. He's smart like that. Now, how is that going to play out in the end of the fight and the finale? I don't know. I don't know who's going to win anymore. I have no idea what's going to happen. Buddha dying seems very likely to be now. I have no fucking idea what's going to happen. Now, I brought this up last month, Buddha has a lot of death flags, but at the same time, Hajin does not seem like the type of character you would have win a round. He's just an objectively evil piece of shit. It'd be like Poseidon winning his round. Like, why? All of the winners have had redeeming qualities or some kind of character development in some way. If Hajin wins, he is going to have the spark of Zerafuku restored within him. Like, Zerafuku will be restored in some manner if Hajin wins. That's what has to happen. Otherwise, it's the most shocking outcome of any of the fights. Like, the bad guy just wins. The bad guy with, like, no fucking redeeming qualities whatsoever wins. Because even when the more evil of the combatants wins, like Zeus or Jack, they have some redeeming qualities or some kind of character development that comes from it. Hajin does not have any of that so far, other than being very enthused and shocked. Those are basically the only big emotions that Hajin has had. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but this was a very good chapter. This fight has really picked up since Hajin showing up. I know Hajin's a bit of a weird case because we kind of lost the same dynamic we had between Buddha and Zero, which was better than quite a few of the other fights, but in return, Hajin is just making a much better fighter from a combat perspective. Whatever you guys think on it, be sure to share in the comments. I'd be interested in finding out what you think. But yes, once again, I'm pretty sure the end of the fight is next month. This definitely feels like the build up to the conclusion, so I'm very excited to see what happens then. The ends of the fights are always the best parts, pretty much without flaw, so I'm greatly looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. So with that is all I have to say for this month's Record of Ragnarok review. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future Record of Ragnarok reviews. I do one every month. If you want to talk to other people about Record of Ragnarok, or you just enjoy the content I produce in this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have linked to that down in the description. I also cover other series such as Jujutsu Kaisen, Kengan Omega, Chainsaw Man, and Bleach. So if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.